I'm Amy Clowry and welcome to this talk on the work of the Child Abuse Department at Switalskis Solicitors. Today I'm joined by David Greenwood, who is the Head of Department and a Director at Switalskis Solicitors, and we're going to be talking about different aspects of the work that we do. Today we're going to concentrate on the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse. Please could you tell me a little bit about the work that Switalskis has been doing in relation to the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse?
Yeah, watchers and listeners may recall that back in about 2013-14, the Jimmy Savile scandal hit the headlines, and there were various allegations against politicians at that time. And the Home Secretary back then, Theresa May, decided that she needed to try and clear all this up or work out what's happened by announcing an inquiry. And that's what we've got, the Independent Inquiry into Child Sexual Abuse. I'm going to call it IICSA. Right? So the remit of that inquiry was to look into how institutions in the country have failed children in the past. These institutions are essentially churches, residential schools, councils, that type of thing. Institutions that have had responsibilities for looking after children. The inquiry has been running since 2015 and it's due to report finally in 2022. I've been involved with most of the inquiries that it's looked at, and from the evidence that I've seen and heard, it seems that most organisations have a tendency to try to cover up this type of abuse. They are serious allegations, and heads of these organisations or people in these organisations that have got good reputations don't want their reputations damaged by these types of allegations. And so there's been a tendency for these institutions to cover up this type of sexual activity, to move the perpetrators to a different part of their organisation and to hush things up, not to report things to the police and not to examine things properly. That's certainly a big aspect that's come out of the evidence so far as I can see. We've also found that even the regulators of schools and councils and charities haven't really had enough teeth or willingness to use their powers to protect children. The Department for Education and the Charities Commission, when faced with serious problems in residential schools, have not taken action to remove perpetrators and to sanction these organisations. So that's been a worrying sign. I personally think that there needs to be a super regulator on safeguarding to protect the rights of children, and that's something that I've proposed to the inquiry. Whether it comes into action or not, into their recommendations or not, I don't know, but I hope that it will. The evidence has certainly suggested that the lack of a responsibility for people in positions of leadership in organisations to report suspicions of child abuse to the police is a serious deficiency, and so we want something called mandatory reporting to require people like teachers or social workers, etc., to report suspicions, or reasonable suspicions of abuse to the police. At the moment we don't have that, and it's voluntary, and that's not good enough as far as I can see. We've also exposed as part of the inquiry that the civil justice system works against claimants and makes it very difficult to pursue a case through the courts. So we want relaxations of elements of the civil justice system, such as the time limits issue. We want that to be made simpler for claimants and more accessible. It's really tough to get through that system at the moment. Ideally, what we want is a redress system similar to the criminal injuries compensation system, but focused only on survivors of child sexual abuse. The climate within the civil justice system is really hard, and it's a cold climate. We want an easier path to justice for our claimants. They deserve it. They shouldn't have to be put through all the hoops that they are at the moment. And so I'm hopeful that this inquiry will recommend a nice, simple, effective and easy to use redress scheme.
Thanks, David. And when did you say that the report is due to come out?
That's in 2022.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, and thank you for listening to this talk today. If you'd like further information about the work that Switalskis does or the work that we do in relation to the inquiry, please visit www.switalskis.com and look at the child abuse page on our website. Thank you.